The message I have today, my dear friends, for all of you is to just take it easy. Take it easy. Understand where we are. Let's focus on the good news, focus on the reality, and focus on why those of us who are hoping for a successful and a positive result coming up in 53 days, roughly. I want you to take it easy and calm down. First of all, thank you for being with us. Normally we start at 8 o'clock. We had a little bit of a, well, not a change. We had a business meeting today and had to move it today. So thank you for being with us. Always make sure you are subscribed to Lionel Nation so that you're aware of what's going on. It's that simple. Make sure you're aware of this. And so that if there's a change or a new video or what have you. Now, first and foremost, I can't say this enough, and I will try my best to put this into perspective. But I am so sick and tired of talking about this debate. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. And the reason why I can't take it anymore, the reason why it's driving me absolutely nuts is the fact that nobody is saying anything new. And what you have to understand is that the people today who are on various platforms have to have things to say in order to make you listen to them. They have to have new content. They have to have new perspectives. They have to have new thoughts. They have to say whatever they have to say to get you to watch them. This is not about an analysis of what's going on. This is about how do they get on? How does Frank Luntz remain relevant? How does whoever pick the person? And some of them are very, very, good, very, very good commentary. Megyn Kelly has a very interesting thing to say about Taylor Swift. It is interesting, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What they're doing is they are just trying to appeal to you, and they're trying to make sure that they satisfy both what you want to hear and what all of their contemporaries are saying. And that's critical. That's really, really important. They're trying to bring up, they're trying to focus on that which their contemporaries are saying. Does that make any sense? Good. And the reason why is to find out what other folks are talking about. And these are the things which I want everybody to understand and to grasp. Don't worry about that phone. I want you to understand this. And it does a disservice. It really does a tremendous disservice to a lot of people because it gives you this. It's, for example, people want to talk about whether Kamala was wearing earpiece, some type of an ear device to allow signals. This went on and on and on. And the Daily Mail today said that the owners of this company came forward and dispelled the rumors. And they didn't dispel the rumors. They said, well, they looked kind of like ours, but not. Daily Mail or whoever was quick to eliminate that as a possibility. Okay, fine. Could she have had an earpiece? Yeah, she could have. How long do you want to talk about that? They're not going to budge. There's no definitive answer. There's no one person. You can have this story because in the old days, when we had editors, when we had people who were responsible for actually coming up with stories that mattered, they would say, look, you did a story one time about the earpiece. We've got to move on because we only have one segment to go. We only have one, news shot. We don't have time for this. Let's talk about other things. Don't talk about the ultimate polls. We're not going to have body language experts. We're not going to have Frank Luntz or what do you think? Or what does Brit Hume think? We don't have time for that. We need news. Well, now, as you know, because there's all this time and all this available space in real estate, they've got to come up with something to just fill time. And they're also making sure that they're looking to see if they are keeping up with their competitors. This is something which is critical. Remember, all of this has nothing to do with making you smarter or wiser or better or calmer or any of that stuff. Their goal, their sole goal is to either promote a particular political way of thinking. And that goes for, there are other people too. There are Trump folks who are going to tell you everything's great no matter what. And I understand it. And I can better tolerate that than I can the opposite. Okay, so that is that. The thing that is the most important right now is, what do you think undecided and independent voters are actually thinking? Do you think any of them truly, honestly, actually, really care about, in the least, do they care anything, and I mean anything, about what? Do they care anything about who said what during the debate? Did she grab her chin? Do you think anybody remembers the debate? I can't believe we're still talking about that. On today's Friday, you see, we're still talking about this debate. And some people are making it sound like it was the worst thing that Trump ever did or could have done, and that everything that we knew about him as a candidate, as a person, it's all through, it's finished, and that's nonsense. Absolute, utter, and total nonsense. It's not even close. What I do hope he does is, I hope he gets rid of the people who are advising him. I don't know where that is. Listen, and I know that we love the guy. Okay? We love him. And he can say pretty much anything he wants, and we're going to still love him. We're going to find it funny or quirky. We know him. He's familiar to us. That's the guy we know. That's the Trump that we know. That's the guy. That's it. Thank you, Angela P. Thank you so much. That's the guy that we know. That's the Trump that we know. We love that guy. That's it, right? That's the way we think. That's the way we've always thought. We love the gruff. We love his attitude. We think he's terrific. There are other people who don't know anything about him. They absolutely don't know the first thing about him. Nothing. They don't know anything about him. And what's even more important to understand is that they're kind of looking to you like, well, I'm kind of getting a look at him now, and is this the best Trump that there is? And that's the message of today. I want him to be himself. I really do. I want him to be himself. I want him to everything that is commensurate with his way of thinking and the way he acts. That's what I want more than anything. I want him to be himself, but I want him to be the best self. Now, this is where somebody needs to get him, and somebody needs to pull him away from everybody else. He needs to have one person, maybe two, maybe a couple, tell him, this is what we're going to do. I want you to stop listening to people. I know people love Tulsi Gabbard, but Tulsi Gabbard trying to coach him is wrong, because Tulsi Gabbard is not Trump. That's the thing which is the most important. Trump is his own animal, his own specimen, his own person. That's who he is. Trump is Trump. And there's no other way around it. There's nothing that I can tell to, I don't know what the word is, where I can kind of pull him away from this notion. Now, listen, he's got to talk to people about what's important. And we have to figure out, he can't talk to everybody. But we've got to be very, very specific, because there are people now listening to him more than they have ever listened to. Let me say this again. There are people listening to him now, louder, and they are more focused on everything he says now. And when people hear him and what he has to do, and listen to Uncle Lenny. I've been telling you this. He has to be able to use his own videos, his own message at his own time. It can be done so many different ways. One of the ways, it's a softer tone. It's in a Mar-a-Lago, wherever, Bedminster, I don't know where it is. It doesn't really matter. Kind of blur the background. I don't really care. But he's here, and there's somebody, let's say his producer or whoever's doing this, is talking. and he's talking to him, not looking at the camera. But sometimes there's the effect of he's talking to somebody and you're sitting around with friends and he's speaking. And we just run very, very calmly for some people, for people who've never seen this. You've heard Trump the loudmouth, you've heard Trump yelling, you've heard Trump MAGA and this and laughing and making fun and making crazy Joe, and that's terrific. We've that is people love that. That has been there. What is going to get people's attention now? A side of him you've never seen, a side of him that cannot lend itself in a debate. You can't explain anything in a debate. The way a debate works is I say something that throws you off. You spend the rest of your time trying to analyze it. Barry Taylor says if one of us was elected as POTUS, we would also have to ask, whom do we trust? Indeed. Ryan says lots of pundits chattering today, Republican and Democrat alike, that perhaps they're getting over their skis on this debate. Focus groups on CNN, CBS, MSNBC are not yielding the results they expected. Voters see things differently. Absolutely. You don't know what people think. And I would love to just give me some raw footage of him explaining something. We're going to get rid of words. One of them is border. We're not talking about a border. What's happening to Springfield, Ohio is not a border. There's no border there. How did Haitians end up showing up in Springfield, Ohio? I don't know. Don't run away from this. Kendra says, Hearthstone chats, focus like a laser. Absolutely. Give me these moments. Give me a great editor. Let me talk. You know how people have shorts? I love, shorts. Everybody's got shorts, the videos and these little quick things. Little moments of Trump that make more sense. Have him say, the other day I was watching, as did you, with the shock of seeing people in Springfield, Ohio. There must be, 100 Springfields all over the Springfield, Illinois. I think that's where Lincoln was born. I think it's a very common name. And citizen after citizen came forward and saying, you've got to help us. You've got to help us. We don't know what to do with these people. We're not racist. We don't mean these people any harm. You've got to help us. And immediately they laughed these people away because maybe and it was shocking. You don't hear about pets being, purloined or nicked, as the Brits would say. You don't hear about this. But you don't laugh at people. It takes a lot for people to go to city council meetings. They've got things to do. They got families. They've got Little League and they've got events. And they did that. And it's not enough for us to laugh at them and say, oh, we don't. It's interesting when you're living at the Naval Observatory with your quote gun, this gun that you own, and you have Secret Service protection, you get walled off from the world. Explain that. Just explain that. You don't have to tell anybody about how things are more expensive. Tell people why they are. Tell people why. Say things like one of the things that's the most important of being a president is to be able to tell people specifically, this is what's happening in your country. This is what's happening. This is what inflation means. Let me explain this. Not everybody understands what that means, or there's too much money, and it's a difficult concept. It's different. It doesn't lend itself easily to people being able to grasp it. It doesn't. But it's something that is really critical and really important and really necessary. And you have to be able to do this. Now, I'm telling you right now, you listen to me. Absent some type of chicanery with ballots or something we know nothing about, if this is a straight up election, fair and square, counting the votes, battleground states, whatever you want to call it, Trump wins. Absolutely. And they know it. And that's why they wanted to do another debate. And the reason why is because they're saying, you know what? They don't know her. Now, these people, remember, they wanted this. They decided at the last minute, they decided that they were going to have her become this candidate out of nowhere without anybody knowing anything about her. She's never won an election. She's never won an election. I mean, she was obviously a senator in California, but that was a very kind of a close, little bit different. She did that, but nobody really knows her. They don't know anything about her. And when I mean know her, I don't mean her background. I don't mean how she makes greens in a bathtub. That's what she thought she would do. Because believe me when I tell you this, and you're going to find this hard to believe, they never knew she knew so little. They never knew, they never grasped, they never had any concept of the fact that she knew so little. Do you hear what I'm saying? They had no idea. They can't believe this. And you can laugh all you want and make fun, but they did not know her. So that's one of the reasons why they say, well, let's do, they feel like they've got wind in their sails. Let's do another debate. And Trump is being a little cheeky. He doesn't really matter. Nobody cares about debates. The numbers of the debates that were watched, the Carter-Reagan debates, had like 40, I don't know, million people watching when this country was smaller. It would be equivalent to like 100 million today. People aren't into the debates. Why? Because you see them later. Trump voters saw a 3-versus-1 debate. Harris voters saw Trump lose the debate. Debate didn't move the needle 1 centimeter. Voting integrity should be the focus. Absolutely. Could not have said it better myself. That is precisely what we're talking about. Precisely. And what we have to understand, what people must grasp, which is also very, very critical, is that when voting is a behavioral thing, it's a mechanical thing, it's all about that. But there's something about Trump. He has experience. He knows things. He comes across serious. When you let her talk, she does not forget the gravitas. And I want you to listen to me this one point very, very carefully. Very, very carefully, very, very critically. This is important. The most important thing to understand. Nobody is voting for her. Let me say this again. Nobody is voting for her. No one. No one. They're voting for the person who is running against Trump, or they are voting for the Democrat. They don't know her. Listen to me. They don't like her or dislike her. They don't know her. There's no connection. She was this stranger who walked off the street and told him some things. And the people who already don't like him said, yeah, that's about right. How'd she do? Well, that about settles that. That about settles that. Yep, that's it. That's all. She made no points. The housing, whenever she tries to give a specific, it's almost sad because it's the only specific that's out there. It's the only thing, if you think about it, it's the only time she talked in generalities about abortion, which is the biggest mistake. When you're meeting people, you're talking to people kind of in the middle. Remember, people who are not inclined to vote now, people who have, for whatever reason, either opted to remain undecided or opted to remain independent or whatever you want to call it. These people are the ones you're talking to. And you've got to understand that the last thing they're worried about is abortion. Sorry. Sorry. Another thing Americans are not as crazy about as you think is guns. Most Americans don't have guns. They don't. Most Americans, the loudest people are gun owners. I am a proud Second Amendment person, but I'm not a hunter. I'm not. It doesn't matter. I'm also a staunch, um, uh, almost an absolutist when it comes to the First Amendment as to religion, Establishment Clause, and free exercise. So remember, we're talking about this. Most people are not. I would say, don't talk about guns. Guns are not what people do not like guns like you think they do. Believe me when I tell you this. Abortion is not something that they are that crazy about. Believe me when I say this. Absolutely important. Um, what are the issues that really get people? What? What are the people? When you talk about borders, when you talk about people coming in, most people, I know people who live in the San Diego area, and they are told, if you read the news, that they are being absolutely overrun with uh, uh what am I trying to say? They're overrun with illegals from all over the world, and they've never seen them. I know people who are in the midst who live in San Diego and La Jolla, and all, they're saying, I don't know what you're talking about. No. So when you talk about borders, it doesn't necessarily impact everybody. To many people, it's the theory, it's the theoretical part. It's the idea that there are people coming to our country who are illegal, but they don't see them. And this is something you've got to understand. There's a lot of folks who are living in towns where there is not a crime problem. There is not a crime problem. More people than you know. Let me ask you something. How many have of you, dear friends, luckily, just yes or no, have never been the victim of a direct crime, a burglary, a robbery, an assault, even worse? How many of you have never, ever been the victim of that? Andrew Hastings says, I compare this state with Bigfoot footprint, dermal ridges, DNA, hair, blood sightings verified. You're crazy. Okay, then you see one. What the? Right. Exactly. Once you are aware of something, then it's like, oh my God, I never knew it was there the whole time. Now think about this. How many of you? Hillbilly says, I haven't. Many of you have, but not today yet. There are many people of you who have said, it's never happened to me. It was broken into one time, maybe had something stolen, maybe it was shoplifting. But most Americans, thank God, and most people in New York City, most people in the largest city in the country, with 8 million people, with every kind of lunatic, have never been the victim of anything. Remember this. It's always a perspective. So, what are the things that people really connect with? Don't give me something theoretical. Don't talk about Ukraine. Don't talk about Israel. Don't talk. That does not. That doesn't. Mm. So, how would you explain that? You explain it. That money could go here. And one of the reasons why your cities are falling apart and our bridges and we don't have enough money is because we're wasting money. Then they say, oh, okay. So I got the Ukraine. What would your city do with $1 billion? I can't even think about that. What would your state do with just $1 billion? Well, Ukraine has gotten, I don't know how many. Nobody even knows. Why is our money going to Ukraine or whatever the particular? That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Right now, our prison populations around the country are exploding. And they always talk about America. They always downgrade. We have more people in prison. We have more people in prison than in China. And they have all these statistics. Well, we've got more crime. And just because you're not feeling it, it is going through the roof. And if you think that criminals just stay in the big cities, do you think if you came from a more temperate clime, do you think that you are going to want to move or to live in New York? They don't know New York from a hole in the ground. They want to go to Florida or Texas or someplace where it's nicer, where it's more temperate. And that's going to happen. And then you hit them with the most important issue I have said, because remember, when you talk about, let's say, gas prices, inflation, you can say, here's what I'm going to do. If I bring inflation down by 1%, your gas will drop by, $2 or whatever it is. You give me a reason, something specific. I don't want to say they're children, but I want you to give me something I can understand. Don't give me theories about a woman's right. And that just, it's not happening. It's not happening. Again, 99% of people have absolutely nothing to do with abortion. Most people have never had an abortion. They don't know anybody who's had an abortion. Most people, I'm sorry, I know if you listen to the news, you think this is the biggest deal in the world. It's not. This is what I can't tell you. It's not. It's not what people think. You've got to ask somebody, why am I going to vote for you? Tell me something in particular. Money that's going elsewhere. Now, taxes, that's another thing too, which is really interesting. The way taxes have to be explained is always like this. It's your money. When I say lowering taxes, I'm not giving you a break. I'm saying I'm taking less of your money. It's the most important thing in the world. I'm taking less of your money. This is what never has been explained to anybody. For some reason, they're in this. They think that somehow tax breaks for the rich. If the rich earned it, let them keep the money. You keep the money. What is this idea that taxes? Now, the bottom line is simply this. We're going to win this thing. And I don't want you to feel the slightest bit that you are going to lose. I don't want you to listen to this. I want you to turn this stuff off. I told you yesterday, I lost my mind. It was almost like all day. I thought, I'm going to do this. And I spent a lot of time reading and just kind of catching up with stuff. And I could not believe it. And the best thing about it is I'm getting off. I'm going into the world of YouTube, something that I can just look that takes my mind off this. Something I love the story about Shannon Sharp. Did you see this one? Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp is the one who apparently left his phone on, had apparently some type of a romantic interlude with some woman, and it went all over the place. And the first thing Shannon Sharp, did you see this? It was the most wonderful thing. It was fascinating. And this is a guy, Club Shay Shay. This is a guy who had on, as you recall, Cat Williams, and was just absolutely changed the course of everything. Oh, thank you. Who changed the trajectory of everything. He was the most famous person. So he did this thing where apparently he had some type of romantic interlude and hit the button on his phone or did something, and it was broadcast. So what did he say? Somebody hacked my phone. somebody hacked my phone. It wasn't me, and it was a lie. And I was fascinated by this. I'm thinking, this has nothing to do with anything. This is not important. How would you tell him? What would you tell him? What would you tell him if he called you and said, listen, this is a phone? It's like, yeah, what happened? Well, I don't know. I hit the button and I bet you somebody's name, Brenda, or I don't know, somebody's name. Well, tell him it was you. Yeah, I'm a grown man. It was me. I hit the wrong button. Don't even say you're embarrassed. There's a grown man. I hit the button. It's not a kid. It was consensual. I can do whatever I want. Be careful out there. How many times have you left the phone on or something in the background, or I got butt dialed this morning by whatever, yeah, and act like nothing. Drop down the reaction. It was fascinating. The most fascinating story, because it dealt with lying. And it was a wonderful story. But nobody's going to want to talk about that. But the implications of it were incredible. There's another story that's even more important. This Caitlin Clark is this white female phenom, WNBA basketball, who is being treated like garbage by a lot of black players and black folk who can't stand her. And it is absolutely 100% racist. Like you cannot believe. And in this cacophony, there are a lot of people who are coming to her defense, and this Whitlock and others. It's a fascinating story. They're saying, how can you? Do you not see what's going on? Oh, some white girl. She is breaking every record, WNBA, that anybody's ever seen. She is beyond. She's not just good. She is like the thank you, the Magnus Carlsen of WNBA. It's the most incredible. It's pure, utter racism. It's the best story in the world. And I'm gravitating towards that. It's interesting to see how people are responding to it. The Dolphins player, Tyreek, I take a leak, whatever his name is, absolutely a great story. The arguments back and forth. He wants the cop fired. Cop fired for what? Absolutely the most ridiculous story ever. Next. John Bon Jovi talks a woman off a bridge. Did you see that story? Yes. First question. What's the first thing you say? Is it real? What? Is it real? Should I believe it? Isn't that something? That's the way I think. Is it real? Should I believe this? How do I know it's real? That's what they said. Why am I like this? Why? Because I've been lied to like you can't believe. Lied. I don't believe anything. And the real stories, the real news, the things that are interesting is not the story as presented, but what the story means. Let me ask you a question. Does racism exist in this country? Yes or no? I'm going to ask you two questions. Does racism exist in this country? Yes or no? Does racism exist in this country? Yes or no? What do you think? It's the greatest question. People love it. Howie says 100% correct. Does racism exist? Yes. 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 It exists in every country. Yes. Now, here's the question. Barry Taylor, by the way, says, what upsets me is the fact that Dems lie, but that I can no longer believe what they say. Oh, I don't believe what anybody says about anybody. Nobody. I don't believe anybody. I just don't. And the biggest frauds are Fox News. And if you don't see that by the people they have on, these look, I don't need Brit Hume to tell me, well, Trump really blew it tonight. Excuse me, I'm not interested. First of all, I don't even know why you're there. Nobody is clamoring for Brit Hume. Why are you doing this? You're doing this because you're about to break up that company and you're Murdoch's. I want to hear people I respect tell me things I know to be true. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear somebody I don't respect tell me, oh, Trump did a terrible thing. But going back to the issue, is there racism? Yes. Question is how much and by whom? And the other question is it normal? Of course it's normal. Is sexism normal? Yes, it's normal. It happens all the time. We've had it since day one. What about ageism? Yeah. What about speciesism? Speciesism. Go back to the Springfield, Ohio. It's one thing if somebody says, this guy he broke into a poultry farm and took they stole a bunch of chickens, a chicken thief. Okay. As opposed to they stole my pet. It's a different story. So is it animal consumption? Yes, but it depends upon what. Is there racism? Yes, but how much? Is there climate change? Yes. It's called weather. That's not the issue. The issue is it anthropomorphic? Is it anthropogenic? Is it man-made? And can man do anything to reverse it? We've got to teach people how to ask the right questions. Do we have a problem with guns in this country or murder? Murder. Do we really? Not compared to other countries. Not compared to other countries. I'm not saying we shouldn't do anything. I'm not sure we shouldn't do anything. Do you know what would happen if everybody that had a gun in this country was involved in a crime? There's about 330, let's say, million Americans. There's about a gun at least for every one of them. Can you imagine that? 330 armed people going on to do something. They said this years ago about jihad. They talked about the Muslims. They said Muslims are violent. You know, the Quran inspires all this violence and blah, 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 blah. Okay. If there are let's make it easy, about 2 billion Muslims on the planet, if just 10% follow this violent way of thinking that people swear there to be, there would be 200 million crazed, homicidal Muslims running around. There'd be forest fires and trains derailed and robberies and bombs and nothing. We have areas filled with very, very peaceful Muslim community. You can go parts of Jersey City and they're all over the place. Nothing. So is there a problem? I don't think so. Is there an anti-Semitism problem? That's my favorite. Is it anti-Semitism or is it anti-Israel? So one of the things that we do, which I find fascinating, and I will never be able to have a TV show because America will not want to follow this, is to look at the issue, but then say, okay, what does this mean? Caitlin Clark, no. This is not. How do we have a group of people who you think would be absolutely so sensitive from the days of Jackie Robinson to the idea of there being this lone white woman? They are jealous of her and they are so mean and nasty and hitting her. And it's so obvious. And don't tell me it's because, well, she just happens to be. They're just jealous of her. It's racist. Next question. But is that normal? What are you going to do? I don't know how many black hockey players there were, but I think the numbers might be less. Do you think that might be a problem? I don't know. But if it was, do you think, let's say the next Gretzky is a black guy from Cleveland. Not even Canadian, not even European. So what I'm saying is you got to look at the issues and you got to ask people the issues. And one of the questions nobody asks is if you ask somebody, if you sat down, you want to do a focus group? And you can say, look, do me a favor. Theoretically, I'm going to hide your face so nobody will know it's you. But you got to answer me my question. Are you voting for Kamala Harris because she's Kamala Harris or because she's running against Trump? She's a Democrat. Do you know anything about it? Let's see. No. I mean, I don't hate it. Fun. Now, nobody's going to say that in public. People are so weird. Nobody, the most fascinating thing is the truth. If I ask somebody, I said, "Are you white?" Yes, I'm a white person. Are you racist? Absolutely not. Do you want your daughter marrying a black man? What? Do you want would you prefer if your daughter married a white man or a black man? Which would you prefer? And if he says, a white man, does that make you a racist? These are the questions I love. What if he said, well, I prefer she marry a black man? Well, that's a lie. So what's the answer? I love questions because it's not the question, it's what it inspires you to ask. This is the most important thing in the world. This is the most important thing in the world. I've got a dear friend of mine, gay. Great friend. And I said, let me ask you something. I said, do you think being gay is normal? He said, what do you mean? I said, define normal. I said, very good. What do you mean normal? Do you think blue eyes are normal? No, it's not normal. They're very rare. You see, this is what I want you to do. I want to go in and I want to inspire you to think about stuff you never thought this way. And I want you to think about questions and think about things like, why is it that what is it about this thing called Donald Trump that you like, or is it republicanism, or what is it? What is it specifically, precisely? What is this thing about him that you like or consider to be beneficial or worthy? What is it? Why do you want him to win? I'll tell you flat out. Based upon the configuration of the American political system right now, between this Democratic Party and this Republican Party, they cannot get near the presidency. Now, there was a time in this country where if it was, George McGovern, it might have been preferred. John Kennedy, Democrat. Hubert Humphrey, not a bad guy. Gene McCarthy, these were just rational people. Jimmy Carter, not a bad guy. I mean, not a bad, one or smart as president, not a bad guy. Not bad. Remember, Paul Volcker and Zbigniew Brzezinski were the deal. That's why the peanut farmer got up. Anyway. So that day is gone. Those Democrats are done. You understand that, right? Those Democrats are over. They're through. They don't exist anymore. There was a time when I could say, yeah, I could do that. I could deal with that. Sure. Scoop Jackson was really one of the original neocons. Scoop Jackson was. Some of these people were serious. The original neocons were libs. These were lapsed Trotskyites, as they were saying. And then all of a sudden, something happened. And all of a sudden, I don't know where they went wrong. But this iteration came right at 2020. This. And the number one issue we can argue about. You want to argue about abortion? Okay. Maybe you got a point. You want to talk about guns? Okay. Fine. You want to talk about a path to citizenship? I've never understood why a country is so interested in getting new citizens. I don't understand that versus taking care of the ones who are already here. That's me. But the number one issue that absolutely is so critical is all of a sudden these sexual freaks came in and decided that they were going to try to convert our sense of normal and right and wrong as to gender and sex and children and what they know and what they think. It is like nothing I have ever seen before. I don't know where they came from. I don't know how they anything else. I'll argue climate change with you. I will talk about, you know what, maybe you got a point, but gender reassignment? No. Wait, who? That's the issue. That is the issue. There is nothing else. Listen to what I am saying. Listen to what I'm saying. It's the issue that will get people's attention like nothing else. The issue. And if they want to make it, you speak very closely, very slowly. Tim Walz, her idea for her chiral opposite, her vice president, wants to green light and wants to slick the skids, so to speak, to provide for children. This is important. Having gender reassignment at ages when they don't even know their favorite color. I don't know why. And I'm never going to figure out why. And I don't know what. It started with, remember this, right around towards the end of the Trump administration. They kept talking about a transgender or male, not bisexual, male and female bathrooms. Remember that? Do you remember that one? Out of nowhere. And I said, what is the big deal here? I remember there was a time I went to this place up here at what's called Time Warner Center, and I walked in, and it was a bathroom. And I walked in, and you know how they have sometimes they have, well, men's have, urinals, but for more other versions of use, they have little doors, little closets, little with a door you can go in. It's not a stall, but anyway. I noticed, wow, there's a lot of these, and women are coming out. I thought, oh my God, I'm in the wrong. And I saw a man. I said, what the hell is it? I didn't think about it. It's no big deal. Most people don't do any talking, but I thought that's when I first saw it. I thought, what is it? Now I knew that they were handy. I knew they were unisex bathrooms, but one at a time. I knew they were sometimes like handicapped, or they would just have, if you had to use a restroom, or you would use it irrespective of that was different. This is everybody goes in at one time. And I should have realized this was the beginning of the change. Andrew Hessing says, it's like I'm watching that movie Trading Places. They make a poor guy rich, a rich guy poor, and all bet for $1. That's precisely right. It's amazing, is it not, how movies will oftentimes reveal this. I am telling you, listen to me. I am telling you, this is the big deal. Raul Rodriguez says black and white racers has attacked Caitlin. Oh, yes, absolutely. I just found this in for those of you who care. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. There is a particular website. Edward Caban, the NYPD commissioner, resigns a week after federal raids. Sources say for the good of this city. He has stepped down. And I don't know who is going to replace him, but that is going on. And I know nobody cares about this, but believe me, this is a big deal here, because this was a level of, how do I say this? There are two, anyway, it's very, very New York, and I know you don't care about that, but this is big for us. In any event, now, that's the issue. This is the issue. You could make it one thing. You can make it, you can say, I want to show you. This is the White House. These are the people that they invited to the White House. LGBT is one thing. That's terrific. Nobody's going to look at this. What is this? This is like RuPaul. What is going on here? This is her. This is what you vote for her. You're going to get this. What is this? These are the same people who want to have drag shows in front of your kids at school. Now, if you think that makes sense, you vote for her. Have at it. But this isn't American. These aren't our values. What are you talking? This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. Listen to what I'm telling you. There are people right now, nobody agrees with this. Everything else you can argue. Well, abortion, well, guns, well, taxes, well, this, well, education, well, I don't know. Immigration, well, my father was an immigrant. Not this. This is the issue that is staring Trump right in the eye. And he feels, I think, that he won't dignify the situation. He won't dignify that he's too good for this. He needs something more. I mean, I shouldn't say it like that, but that he deserves uh, a more important Tulsi Gabbard wouldn't be. There's a woman named Marine Le Pen, and when they call her right wing and everything, she's in France. And they asked years ago, they said, what do you think about this thing called a burkini? And this was a bikini and a burqa combined. All right. And they asked her, what do you think about that? And she says, that's not French. That's not our values. Let me tell you, imagine somebody, he sees this in the short, he sees this in the commercial. He has no idea, or she. I'm Donald Trump. If you don't think there is a difference between men and women, males and females, boys and girls, vote for her. And you will see everything change. And I'm not talking bathrooms. I'm talking everything. Prisons, doctors, the notion of sports. Oh, we've been through that. And the thing about it is that she and her ilk have been telling you, warning you the whole time, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. They told you, Leah Thomas, what do you think this is? Some experiment? They're telling you precisely this is what we're going to do. We live in a country, I live in a world now where you can see a man walk into a boxing ring and beat the hell out of a woman, and we give him a medal. If you like that, vote for the Democrats. Get ready. You ain't seen nothing yet. We're not talking gay rights. We're not talking LGB. We're talking T. And the T means a dissolution and a destruction of the fundamental differences between genders. It is axiomatic. It is natural. You can't grow crops between knowing the male and the female and the stamen and the and all that. It defies anything. You couldn't have a fishery. You can't have a pet store. You can't grow. If you don't know fertilization, if you don't recognize, for whatever reason, call it God, call it nature, call it whatever. We are in the year 2024 having a bunch of radicals wanting to define, redefine men and women. Let me say that again. I don't think you heard me, because you're probably thinking, no, I'm telling you, yes. Men and women, they don't see any difference. And they can't wait to go into a class and take that poor little kid of yours, that beautiful child, your son, your daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter, your grandbaby, when they are the most trusting and the most impressionable and the most easily confused, where thunder frightens them and they think there's a monster under their bed and they don't even know their favorite color. And at that important time of their life, you're going to have these freaks, and they're freaks, come in with their pink hair and their this and that, with their pronouns, to completely confuse these people and to try to get your child to say, yeah, I think I'm a girl, without any idea. Billy D. Williams, remember him, the actor? He was talking about one time they thought they were saying to him, he thought he was talking about going after his, feminine side, and they meant, are you a woman? And they incorrectly said he came out. He goes, what? This is barbaric. They're talking about Ukraine. I've got the easiest subject in the world. I'm telling you. And she ain't gonna. She's not gonna confuse. She will not risk in any way angering this constituency. Let me show you. This was at the White House. This was a person that, remember that guy Cooper or whatever, the guy with the white fingernails, and he was there the first week, and they thought it was so much fun. And he's on TikTok, these influencers, and the one woman who lifted, or man, or whoever was, lifted up his breath. Remember that? This is what you want. Now I don't know why. I don't care why. It doesn't matter to me. But I won't have that. This has to stop now. What you do in the privacy of your home, fine. I don't care. But you're not going to do this to our children. You're not going to go into schools. You're not going to indoctrinate and reorient and confuse. And how this man, Tim Walz, this war veteran or command sergeant major or master, whatever he is, this week, he was proud he put in tampon machines in boys' rooms. Why? Because in his world, that sent a signal like, I'm on board with you. I got all the right issues. That's precisely what they're doing. So it's up to you, dear friends. If you like this, but I don't think you do. That's the way you do it. All this other stuff is just like, oh, because we've already argued this. There's nobody waiting to hear Kamala's view on inflation. I mean, it's just not. Why they do this? Never in the history. If I went back in time from Reagan to Nixon to Truman to anybody and said, I've got this story here, I've got this issue involving gender, they would say, well, what are you waiting for? Yeah, but I wanted to hit them more with the academic stuff, sales tax and tariffs. Wait a minute, tariffs? You've got an opponent party who wants to, destroy the differences between men and women. What are you waiting for? That's precisely what I want to do. That's precisely what I want to do. So, my friends, you've heard it here. And I know what I'm talking about. So anyway, dear friends, thank you so much. You have been so kind today. Thank you. Raul Rodriguez, thank you. Andrew Hessing, Barry Taylor, EDAV3, Kendra, thank you. Ryan, Barry, and Angela P., thank you so much for your kindness and your beauteousness. Let me remind you, as I normally do, my friends, to never forget our wonderful sponsors. They are there through thick and thin, and we love them. Our friends at mypillow.com, promo code Lionel, or call 800-645-4965. And watch how fast Mike Lindell answers the phone. Just check out that website. You will not believe what you hear. And then also My Patriot Supply, but specifically preparewithlionel.com. I cannot in any way emphasize enough how critical it is, how critical that you take on or have a food storage plan now, and they are simply the best. I absolutely, positively endorse them 100%. And then lovers of liberty and music and spoken word and all that stuff, on October the 26th, I'll be at the Cutting Room in New York for your entertainment and musical pleasure and the like. So there we have that. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll be back tonight at the usual time at 7 p.m. Don't forget, subscribe to Lionel Nation. Don't forget also to subscribe to Lynn's Warriors, Mrs. L's YouTube channel, Lynn's Warriors. Thank you, dear friends. Have a glorious and a blessed day. Remember, rational common sense is going to win. Remember that. We are going to win. Stop talking about this debate. It's over. Let's move on. See you later, my friends. And don't forget, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Dead.